Revealed. The eerie legend of the 7 terrifying Aswang and their bone-chilling mystical gem in the quiet town of Maplewood. Where golden leaves danced in the autumn breeze and friendly chatter filled the air, rumors of the Aswang whispered like an unwelcome chill. They were said to be shapeshifters, creatures of nightmare, lurking in the shadows, waiting to prey on the fearful. 7 of them, each more sinister than the last, left children trembling and parents locking their doors tight. They say a gem, glittering with ancient jewels and untold power, lies at the heart of their legend, a mystical key that could unlock their reign of terror or bind them forever in chains. It was on a particularly crisp afternoon that Jamie Harlow, a spirited 17-year-old with dreams as vast as the sky, decided to rummage through her grandfather's dusty barn. Searching for mementos, her fingers found an intricate jewel-encrusted gem wrapped in age-worn velvet. It pulsed under her touch, vibrating with energy. Jamie felt a strange connection, like it was calling out to her, a terrifying beckoning that echoed through her very veins. A thrill danced along her spine, both exciting and frightening. "What on earth could you be?" she whispered, her heart pounding. Unbeknownst to Jamie, darkness was unfurling in Maplewood. Children from the blocks just beyond her own started to disappear, one by one, leaving nothing but echoes of laughter in the hearts of the neighborhoods. Parents grew anxious, voices shaky with concern. "Am I next? Where did they go?" Jamie felt the weight of something ominous pressing down, a tightness in her chest that urged her to seize control and make sense of the chaos. "Simon, Jamie, let us figure this out," urged Eddie, her next-door neighbor and aspiring military recruit, as he shifted uneasily. Priya, always the one with a plan, nodded in conviction, while Sarah, the mayor's rebellious daughter, crossed her arms. "This gem might just be our ticket," she said, eyes glittering with hope and defiance. Together, they dove into the mystery, gathering clues from the town's legends, uncovering hidden fractures in their community. It's always been them versus us. Older locals eyeing the new families with suspicion. The Aswang thrived on this divide, feeding on fear and distrust like a predator waiting in the dark. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jamie and her friends gathered intel, unease settled deeper. The elder in town, the last keeper of their history, begged them to leave the gem be. "It's a burden," he warned, "not a blessing." The weight hung like fog over their growing camaraderie as secrets began to unravel, revealing cracks where trust once stood firm. Betrayal lingered in the air, a nagging whisper driving wedges between them. As the annual Maplewood Night Festival loomed, a clash of shadows and flickering lights felt imminent. Jamie could feel the energy swaying, teetering on a knife's edge between hope and horror. Just as the festivities would begin, she unearthed a deeper truth about the Aswang and their ties to the gem. They were drawing near, and all the laughter and warmth of the festival couldn't shield them from the darkness ready to strike. With time slipping away and doubt haunting her at every turn, Jamie raced to gather her friends. The Aswang were ready. They could smell the fear, and they wouldn't stop until they made Maplewood their hunting ground. But Jamie knew, whether the gem held the key to power or redemption, one thing was clear. The bonds of friendship would be tested like never before. Would they fight together, or would the creeping shadows tear them apart? The air crackled with a strange intensity as Jamie and her friends stood on the brink of the festival, the illusion of joy glaring in the fading sunlight. The smell of caramel apples wafted through the air, mingling with the fear clawing at her throat. She could sense the darkness lurking just outside the fringe of light, an invisible predator watching, waiting. "Jamie, we need to hurry," Eddie urged, his voice strained as if he could feel the shadows encroaching. The carnival ride spun in the distance, laughter bubbling up like a trapped spirit, but the joy felt tainted, robbed of innocence. Her fingers curled around the gem in her pocket, cold and unyielding. It felt like a weight dragging her down, almost warning her was the gem a shield, or a calling card for danger. Priya kept glancing over her shoulder, jittery, as if the Aswang could swoop down at any moment from the canopy of dying leaves. "We'll stick to the plan," she said, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. "Find the elders, get their help. Maybe they can save us?" Sarah cut in, her voice laced with sarcasm. "They're terrified too. They did nothing when those kids vanished." She locked eyes with Jamie, determination swirling within. "We have to confront this. We have the gem, we might have a chance." A heavy hush fell over them, like a blanket-absorbing sound. Jamie felt all eyes on her now, the weight of expectation heavy as stone. She could almost hear the heartbeat of Maplewood, frantic and racing. But she steeled herself, recalling the tremors of her heart when she first uncovered the gem. It was her chance to reclaim control not just over the town, but over the creeping dread that gripped her mind. The festival lights flickered, casting ominous shadows that danced like specters at the corners of her vision. Confetti crunched under their feet as they made their way deeper into the throng. A labyrinth of fear mingled with false cheer. Voices echoed, parents calling for their kids, laughter erupting only to be swallowed by uneasy whispers. "Did you hear? Another one disappeared last night." Jamie's heart raced. She had seen the fear in the eyes of parents, the dread twisted in their expressions. Any smile felt forced, any laughter brittle, echoing her own encroaching horror. "We can't let fear win," she declared, bolstered by a sense of urgency. Each word seemed to spark a flicker of hope in the depths of despair. They approached the central pavilion, draped with colorful banners that danced in the light wind but felt suffocating. As they stepped into the heart of the festival, the energy shifted, a sudden chill that coursed through the crowd. Gasps erupted around them. "Look!" An anxious child screamed, pointing into the dark tree line bordering the festival. A shape flitted between the trees, a gaunt figure, moving with unnatural grace and speed. Jamie felt her blood turn to ice. There it was, the palpable hint of a Aswang lurking, feeding on the very essence of the festival itself. "Run!" Jamie shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. Instinctively, they turned toward the source of fear. The crowd erupted into chaos, confusion swirling like a tempest. Will they stay together or become another victim of the shadows? The answer fluttered on the edge of a scream, hearts pounding in unison as they raced against the dark tide. Just when Jamie thought they could escape the grip of fate, the gem pulsed violently, and she felt its power thrumming against her skin. What if, instead of protection, it summoned the Aswang? What if the power of the gem was a beacon, calling them forth into the light with insatiable hunger? A figure loomed on the edge of the trees, eyes glinting with malicious intent. And in that moment, the true horror of the festival unfolded. Chaos erupted around them, a frenzy of panicked parents and screaming children. Jamie felt the pulse of the gem quicken, as if it synced with the beating of her heart, drawing her in. Darkness enveloped them, the crowd's sunburnt laughter now turning into a wailing siren that would haunt the town long after nightfall. "Eddie! Priya! Sarah!" Jamie shouted over the cacophony, but her voice felt small against the tidal wave of fear. Her friends clustered close, their faces pale, eyes wide. They moved like a herd, pressed together in the shifting tide of humanity, seeking refuge from the terror lurking just beyond the shadows. "Over there." Priya pointed to a narrow alley between two stalls. "We can hide until we figure out what to do." They darted toward it, squeezing through the throng. Jamie glanced back, a sickening dread tightening in her stomach. The figure had emerged from the trees, skin gray and stretched like a marionette on broken strings. The Aswang. It stepped into the light of the flickering carnival bulbs, its mouth curving into a gruesome grin. Eyes wide and unblinking, it surveyed the chaos, searching, hungry. "Keep moving," Jamie urged. They slipped into the alley, a narrow gap overshadowed by towering booths. The noise of the festival muted, replaced by their ragged breaths. Jamie's heart thudded loudly, thumping like a warning drum. She gripped the gem tighter, its cold surface unyielding against her palm. "We can't stay here," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "What if it finds us? Then we fight," Jamie replied, heart splitting with determination. "This gem, it has to mean something." Eddie shook his head, eyes darting nervously. "What if it makes things worse? We don't know how it works." Jamie felt the uncertainty prickling her skin. Was the gem a blessing or a curse? Images of the missing children swirled in her mind, faces bright with life now overshadowed by fate's cruel hand. Sudden gasps erupted from the festival, drawing their attention. Jamie peered around the corner of the booth, eyes widening in horror. The Aswang had cornered a group of children, grinning its ghastly grin, crouching low. It licked its lips, anticipation glinting in its soulless gaze, sending a shiver racing down Jamie's spine. "Do we just sit here?" Eddie snapped. "We can't just hide while it hunts them." "No," she gritted through clenched teeth. "We're not leaving anyone behind." Steeling herself, Jamie stepped forward into the growing darkness of the alley. "Priya, stay with the others. I'm going to draw its attention." "What? Are you crazy?" Sarah pulled her back. "I have to do this. For everyone." Jamie's voice rang with a boldness she didn't fully feel. She had the gem, whatever its true power. It was hers to wield now. "You can't let it take any more lives." With shaking hands, Jamie raised the gem. It pulsed with a light that cut through the shadows around her, illuminating her resolve. The voices of the festival came rushing back, the noise swelling into a wave of determination. She would confront this monster. "Hey!" Jamie shouted, her voice steady despite the tremors. "Over here." The Aswang's head snapped in her direction, hunger and rage igniting in its eyes as it turned away from its prey. "Come and get me," Jamie taunted, forcing confidence into her voice. The creature surged forward, and adrenaline surged through Jamie as the ground beneath her felt both familiar and alien. But as the Aswang neared, the gem flared with an unexpected brightness, bursting forth a beam of light that repelled the darkness, creating an ethereal barrier between them. "What's happening?" Eddie gasped, wide-eyed. The Aswang screeched, recoiling before the radiant pulse. Had she unleashed a force of protection or provoked an ancient wrath? Jamie felt a knot of fear clench tighter in her gut. Then she noticed, coming from the shadows, figures emerging more Aswang, their gaunt forms spilling forth like darkness released from a bottle. They were surrounded, and then the chilling thought struck her: if she had called one, had she summoned them all? As they advanced, the energy of the gem echoed within her, a thrum vibrating through the air like an ominous anthem of an impending storm. What would she need to do to harness its true potential? Or was it already too late? With the horde of Aswang closing in, the air thickened with dread. Jamie's breath hitched in her throat. They moved like shadows, gliding silently, their twisted forms flickering in and out of the dim light emitted by the gem. Panic clawed at her insides as the first one lunged, a skeletal arm reaching towards her. "Back!" Eddie shouted, pushing Jamie aside and stepping forward. Without thought, he swung a makeshift weapon, a loose piece of wood from the alley floor. It struck the Aswang across its face, splintering with a sickening crack. But the creature barely flinched, a low growl emanating from deep in its throat. "Run!" Priya screamed, her voice sharp and urgent. But where could they run? The narrow alley had turned into a claustrophobic trap. Jamie felt the pulse of the gem intensify, resonating with her fear and determination. "Wait, I can feel it," Jamie exclaimed, focusing on the gem. Its light flickered, almost wanting to respond to her will. "If we combine our strength." "Combine what?" Sarah cried, trembling as more Aswang neared. "We're outnumbered. This is insane." But Jamie desperately needed to believe in the gem's power. "I think it needs all of us. We have to channel our feelings, our will to fight. It's pulling from us. If we send our energy together, maybe we can push them back." Unsure but hopeful, the others nodded, their fear giving way to desperation. Jamie placed her free hand on the cold surface of the gem, while Eddie and Priya joined her, gripping each other's shoulders, their hearts racing as a broken chant formed between them. We won't let you take anyone, Eddie shouted, a fire igniting in his eyes. I'm not afraid, Priya echoed, determination flooding her words. I won't let you win, Jamie cried, pouring everything she had into that gem. The air boiled with intensity as the gem blazed brighter, intense gold light swirling around them, vibrant against the encroaching shadows. The lead Aswang hissed, recoiling momentarily before launching itself forward again, driven by its insatiable hunger. The light intensified, pulsating with a rhythm that matched their pounding hearts. Push! Now! Jamie commanded with all her might. They focused, channeling their fear, anger, and a flicker of hope into the gem. A beam shot out, lighting up the alley and breaking the encroaching darkness. One by one, the Aswang flinched, their snarling faces twisting in agony as the light struck them. The corpses of ancient legends, the starving nightmares, folded backward under the force. Jamie felt the power surge within her, wrapped in the essence of a united front. It felt right, like they had tapped into something primal, a bond that reptile-twitching monsters couldn't break. But the question lingered in the air: was this power enough? One final Aswang remained, the largest and most daunting of all, eyes radiating with unrelenting malice. It stepped forward, unfazed by the radiant light, stalking closer with deliberate intent. Hold steady, Jamie barked, the fear creeping back into her bones. This one felt different. It felt like it was more than just a creature. It was a force unyielding. She had no idea what she was confronting. The others stiffened, the weight of doubt crushing the camaraderie built in that moment. The light flickered, and Jamie could feel something shift, a pull from the gem, a madness spreading through her thoughts. What was it trying to show her? In that moment of tension, she realized it wasn't just a means to fight back. The gem was suggesting a truth. Guys, I think we need to find out what it wants from us. Now. Just as she spoke, the gem pulsed violently, drawing their attention toward the darkened space from which the Aswang emerged. Each flicker revealed a sliver of forgotten lore, buried deep in their minds. A horrific image of a tangled truth gripped her, pieces of a story that entwined them all. For in their fight to save each other, they had become part of a much larger tale. What had they awakened? The air crackled with uncertainty, as dark hints of past horrors hung over them like a veil. The ground shook beneath their feet as the largest Aswang advanced, its form shifting between solid and shadow. Jamie's heart raced, each thud against her chest screaming for her to flee. The others stood firm, but Jamie could see doubt creeping into their eyes. Channel it. Focus on the truth, Jamie shouted, trying to drown out her own fear. The gem pulsed, synchronizing with her frantic thoughts, each beat echoing an unspoken promise. Eddie, with a determined edge, took a step forward, holding his piece of wood like a sword. We need to unravel this, he said, voice steady despite the terror surrounding them. They gathered closer, clustering around the flickering light, a fragile candle against the consuming darkness. The monstrous Aswang halted, its expression shifting between rage and incomprehension. Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that it had seen something deeper, recognized a connection that transcended the mere physical conflict. Imagine what it's hiding, Priya breathed, her fingers clenched against the light. What if we are the keys? Each word hit Jamie like a bolt of electricity, firing a flicker of hope amidst the dread. A truth waiting to surface. Yes, perhaps it can't approach us unless we uncover what connects us to this gem. The Aswang leered in hunger, its jagged teeth glinting like broken glass. The light surrounding them dimmed, flickering as fear gnawed at Jamie's resolve. Channel everything you have into the gem. Let it reveal our bond. Eddie nodded, his grip tightening on Jamie's shoulder, the warmth fusing them. Together, we can expose whatever cursed history has entangled our fates. With minds linked, they focused hard on not just the darkness but the memories locked deep within them. The gem vibrated, a low hum resonating in the air, calling forth flashes of forgotten time, stories of ancestors, long-lost kin, and haunting tales shared over flickering fires. The deeper they searched, the brighter the gem glowed. Suddenly, a rush of images flooded Jamie's mind, her grandmother's whispered tales, drenched in ghostly folklore. Some voices rose above the rest. The guardians of the gem, the protectors. They drew power from the living. They bound their rage to keep the Aswang at bay. A collective gasp echoed among them. Jamie realized they were not just victims here. They were inheritors of a legacy brought to life by their bloodline. If we embrace our history, we can use it against them. The Aswang let out a roar, painful, primal. It staggered back, shadows peeling away from its form as the light surged stronger. Now, Jamie yelled, pushing every ounce of will into the gem. We are stronger united. We will not fall into your darkness. As they stood firm, the light erupted in a blinding flash, illuminating the alley and casting ghostly shadows of the Aswang that twisted like marionettes in agony. Jamie felt the gem's energy merging with their strength, a tempest uncoiling. With one last desperate push, the final Aswang screamed, a sinister wail echoing through the alley. The light surged, engulfing everything in golden brilliance, melding souls, heritage, and fierce determination into one. But just as victory seemed within reach, the Aswang transformed. A gaping maw opened wide, and the very fabric of reality around them began to unravel. What is happening? Sarah's voice cracked, strained against the dizzying spectacle unfolding. Stay focused. We have to finish this, Jamie shouted, but uncertainty clawed at the edges of her conviction as the light fought against the encroaching shadows. Something monumental began to rise from the darkest corners of their blood-soaked history. A new question lingered in the air, chilling them to the bone. What if the truth they feared was deeper than they ever imagined? An ancient curse had been awakened, and now they were faced with a terrifying possibility. The blinding light wavered under the tug of shadow, flickering like a candle caught in a storm. Jamie's heart raced, and her throat tightened. The Aswang's maw gaped wider, an endless void that seemed to draw in everything around it. She fought against the suffocating dread clawing at her mind, her grip on the gem tightening. Concentrate. We cannot let it pull us in, Eddie yelled, his voice straining, as he steadied himself against the pulsating energy between them. The shadows twisted, swirling like dark smoke, and all at once the alley morphed into an echo of their past, a swirling tapestry of ancestral memories. Jamie could see her grandmother's face flickering, filled with wisdom and warning. Together, we channel our bloodline, Priya shouted, her eyes blazing with determination. Guardians before us wielded this same power. But what were they guarding against? The question gnawed at Jamie's gut. Were they truly meant to face this creature? Or were they destined to repeat the cycle of fear that haunted their ancestors? Look, Sarah pointed, her voice shaking. The gem is pulsing. The gem linked their energies, brightening. Yet the shadows lashed back, desperate and angry. The Aswang writhed, its form contorting in agony, as if the raw power they summoned cut deep. Another howl echoed, this one filled with rage, sharp enough to fracture their resolve. But with that realization came a deeper understanding, a deeper terrifying truth that rumbled beneath the surface. The Aswang was more than just a monster. It was the physical embodiment of every fear that had ever plagued their family tree. Each whispering shadow represented an untold tale, a haunting of unclaimed darkness. Release the fear. Claim our history, Eddie roared, pushing against the pull of shadow, forcing Jamie to focus. The gem surged in response, glowing fiercely as visions danced through their minds. Priya, remember your father's stories, Jamie urged. What did he say about confronting your fears? A flicker of recognition crossed Priya's face. He always spoke of alignment, of facing the darkness within to push back the actual shadow. Exactly, Jamie exclaimed, her eyes wide as courage flooded back in. We must not attack the Aswang as an enemy but unite against this internal terror. But before they could act, the shadows recoiled, lashing out in vengeful streaks. The air crackled with energy as the Aswang struggled against its own prison of fear. A violent wave surged towards them, chaos spiraling through the alley, every element seeming to hurl toward an inevitable collision. Hold on, Jamie shouted, standing at the forefront. We forge our destiny from within. Together they took a deep breath. The gem pulsed wildly, casting echoes of light that veered into the past, revealing hidden truths buried beneath generations of silence. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their legacy. Suddenly, the Aswang froze, its shadowy form flickering. Jamie's mind raced with the pieces of the puzzle aligning. This wasn't just a battle. It was a pivotal moment to release their ancestors, the balance of light and dark resting on their unity. Now, Jamie screamed, "Face it together." With a surge of collective energy, they dove headfirst into the memories, unearthing buried tales of bravery and defiance. The gem brightened to a blinding glow, threatening to obliterate the shadows swirling around. But then an unexpected horror seeped through. A voice, deep and sinister, emerged from the depths of the Aswang. "You think you're the first? This is only the beginning." As dark laughter echoed around them, Jamie's resolve hung by a thread. The air vibrated with a chilling tension that swept through her, harsh yet electrifying. Had they truly awakened something far worse than they'd imagined? Something that had been waiting, watching? The shadows circled tighter, and her heart plunged. Was this fight just an overture to darker things lurking beyond? The shadows pulsed, thick and suffocating around Jamie and her friends. They huddled together, their shoulders brushing, each heartbeat loud in the silence following the Aswang's threatening declaration. Then, without warning, the alley seemed to expand, pulling them deeper into a void that felt both alien and familiar. Memories, flickering images of the past, unstopped their minds like a broken dam. Jamie gasped as her grandmother's laughter echoed through the darkness, tinged with sorrow. Wasn't this the laughter she remembered hearing at family gatherings? But now, it twisted into something chilling, as if the Aswang feasted on their fondness. "Reach for the light," Priya shouted, her voice slicing through the echoes. She reached her hand out, leading Jamie and Eddie deeper into the brightness around them. They grasped the gem as if it were a lifeline, and a brilliant glow burst forth, illuminating the darkness. "Look," Sarah exclaimed, eyes wide with wonder and confusion. "It's showing us memories." Visions unfurled before them. Ancestors' confrontations with the Aswang, fierce battles, sacrifices, despair. Jamie's heart ached for the souls lost to fear. Each ancestral face played out like a tragic story, and Jamie's stomach tied in knots. Had those who came before them failed? Would they too? But no, they were equipped with knowledge, responsibility, and, most importantly, the gem. "We can do this." Jamie's voice rose, gaining strength. She was the anchor, her determined gaze igniting the spark within each of them. "Concentrate on what binds us," Eddie yelled, his breath quickening as the shadows writhed. "Let us channel their courage." Together, they shut their eyes, binding their fears to memories, amplifying their will like a fuel igniting a fire. The gem blazed, casting sharp lines against the shadows, causing them to shriek and recoil as if stung by a light unseen. Then came a flicker of hope. Memories of family gathering around a dinner table surged forth, stories of love triumphing over darkness. Their laughter was a shield, resonating in the air. Jamie felt her grandmother's south spirit close, felt the weight of years upon years of resilience coiling tightly around them. "Keep pushing," Priya urged, her fists clenched, desperation mingling with newfound hope. Inside Jamie, a warm tide surged, filling the hollowness that fear had carved. It felt manageable, something they could use. But the Aswang was relentless. It recoiled and surged again, its visceral threats echoing, claws swiping frightfully at their unity. "You don't know what you've done, little fools." Jamie trembled, each word a knife carving into her resolve. "We decimate the fear," she shouted back defiantly, but doubt whispered at the edges of her mind. Was this really enough to beat back the darkness? Fighting against the shadow's oppressive tide, Jamie felt the gem pulse in anger, as if feeding on their fears and transforming them into a powerful surge of light. It was them together that fueled its strength. But as the shadows drew closer, a terrifying truth loomed larger. The Aswang gathered energy, preparing one final, desperate assault. The power roiling around them started to crackle, making their hair stand on end, breathing life into premature panic. "Are you ready? The fate of all our ancestors rests on us," Eddie bellowed. They clenched their hands tightly around the gem. And yet, in the frenzy, a cry floated nimbly through the dark. With horror, Jamie realized it wasn't tea coming from them, but from the depths of the Aswang itself, a terrifying scream that vibrated through the alley like shattering glass. Welcome to the true nightmare. The energy around them flickered, shadows clasping tighter as if grappling for control. And for just a heartbeat, the gem dimmed, casting them into the daunting unknown. What awaited them when the light returned? Would they stand victorious? Or would the shadows bury them alive under their relentless weight? The darkness swallowed them whole, an inky void that smothered any flicker of hope. Jamie felt the gem slip, its glow pulsing, fading like a heartbeat. Panic prickled her skin. "Hold on," she gasped, squeezing it tighter. Her friends gripped it too, their faces twisted in fear, illuminated just enough to reveal widened eyes and trembling lips. Then, like a gasp of fresh air, the light surged back. It cut through the oppressive shadows, revealing faces old as time, swirling in memories now reformed. They weren't just shadows. They were memories, faces of their ancestors bound, spirits ignited by the same fear that coursed through Jamie. "Remember them. They fought," Priya cried, her voice mingling with the echoes of laughter and pain. Jamie focused on the memories, their battles against darkness and despair, perseverance against the Aswang. She could see her grandmother, her touch gentle yet fierce, guiding them forward. Felt like they were not alone. The warriors of the past stood behind them, ready to fight. But as hope flickered alive, the Aswang's guttural laugh echoed in the air, heavy and merciless. "You think you can win this? You're mere children." It swelled, a grotesque shape forming within the shadows, its eyes glowing like embers, masking an ancient hunger. "Show us what you're made of," Eddie shouted, finding his voice within the tumult. In response, Jamie thought of the gem, the warmth alive in her hand. With a deep breath, she called out. Together, they linked their thoughts, memories glowing, energy vibrating wildly. Suddenly, the gem blazed in a white-hot light, illuminating every corner of the alley, every creeping shadow. The howl of the Aswang reverberated, driving Jamie's heart into her throat. But as the power flowed, the shadows thickened, coiling around them like a serpent, intent on tightening its grip. "You may fight, but despair will always come." The Aswang lunged forward, its claws slashing at the air, each strike fueled by fury. In an instant, Jamie's thoughts shifted. She remembered her grandmother's stories about the gem. The power wasn't just in its light, but in the love and memory shared among family. "Share your fears. Let them become our strength," she shouted as they released their fears, uncertainty over friendships, loss of family, the burden of expectations. The gem absorbed those worries, turning them into tangible force. The shadows shimmered, flickering like a candle in the wind. Then Jamie felt it, a sudden crack, a powerful jolt, as if the very fabric of the nightmare was beginning to unravel. "It's working," she cried, exhilaration igniting within her. The gem flared brighter, casting a warm glow that pushed back against the dark, causing the Aswang to stagger. But in that moment of hope came an unsettling shift, a swirling fog creeping from the edges of the alley, threatening to engulf them all once again. "Stay focused," Priya shouted, panic rising, eyes darting. Yet amid the chaos, Jamie felt something else. A silence, layered in tension, a call to a deeper understanding. "Wait," she whispered, realizing the shadows weren't entirely composed of fear. They were reflections of every struggle faced, every battle fought, mirrored souls seeking resolution. With a sudden resolution, she turned back to her friends. "We need to embody our ancestors. We are more than just fragments of their memories." As they unfurled their energies and lived through the collective struggle, they felt the shadows swirl. The Aswang shrieked, its ghastly figure contorting in turmoil. Suddenly, wisps of ancient power ignited from the gem, projecting forms past warriors, guardians fighting against the raging void. But just as victory seemed tangible, the shadows began to envelop them once more, whispering words too soft to grasp, promising despair entwined with secrets. "Jamie, we need to run," Eddie yelled, pulling at her arm. "No, we must stand firm." Her voice resonated, defying the dark clouds swirling around them, but the panic raced within. Something deeper lurked beyond the shadows. What awaited them when the Aswang fully unleashed? Its rage? Would they reveal the true legacy of their ancestors or fall victim to an unspeakable horror that had long been buried? Darkness thickened around them, a smothering presence that twisted and stretched, clawing at Jamie and her friends. The air was charged, humming with tension and fear. Despite their united front, the shadows pressed in, whispering tantalizing secrets in voices that sounded eerily familiar. Chills raced down Jamie's spine. "No, focus," she shouted, her voice cracking despite her resolve. At that moment, the gem pulsed with warmth, and Jamie felt its energy intertwine with hers. It was more than just a stone. It was the heartbeat of their ancestors, thrumming with stories of resilience and bravery. As wings of light fought against the looming darkness, she caught a fleeting glimpse of a face, her grandmother, smiling yet fierce, urging her forward. "Channel your strength," Priya cried, her eyes wide, reflecting the glow of the gem as she closed her fists around it. "This is our moment." The Aswang snarled, and the ground trembled beneath them. "You are fools to think you can summon the dead. They failed, and so will you." The air cooled as the shadows darkened, and just as Jamie felt the weight of despair threatening to drag her down, she remembered the stories. The tales of family bonds forged even in the toughest of times, the sacrifices, the love, the unfaltering hope. "Remember why we fight," Eddie bellowed, his voice echoing like a battle cry. "For each other, for our families." With every ounce of bravery they could muster, they began to chant. Whispered words turned to fervent cries. Fears turned into hope. As they spoke of the sacrifices made for them, the stories twined together like vines, creating a shield of light that pushed back the darkness with each breath. "No," the Aswang writhed, its form distorting, fading from view as if struck by the warmth of their combined strength. But in its fury, it unleashed a shriek that vibrated through the walls of the alley, shaking the very foundation beneath their feet. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the gem, illuminating their surroundings more brilliantly than the sun. They saw shadows of their ancestors, the guardians, reaching out to them, their hands intertwined, forming a protective barrier. "Together," Jamie cried, her voice growing stronger, the pulse of the gem matching the rhythm of her heart. "Let us show them what we can do." They locked hands, encircling the gem, channeling memories of laughter, love, and strength. Energy surged, radiating like ripples through the air. But just as their might began to drown the Aswang's snarling figure, the ground shifted violently, cracking open beneath them. "Hold on," Priya yelled, but it was too late. A chasm gaped wide, revealing a swirling void below. Ebbing light flickered from the depths, creating a haunting reflection of their faces warped, twisted in terror. "Let go. We can't fall," Eddie shouted, desperate. They struggled against the pull, but the shadows whispered promises of secrets unraveling and desires fulfilled in that eternal abyss. A voice called from the depths, sinister yet enticing. "What will you sacrifice for power? Will you trade your bond for strength?" Jamie's chest tightened. The true test had begun. With every beat of her heart, memories whispered back of strength, of unity. "No," she screamed defiantly. "We won't give in. Our bond is unbreakable." But the chasm threatened to swallow them whole, begging for their allegiance. What would they choose? Would they risk everything for salvation, or would they let the darkness win? In that moment of uncertainty, Jamie's legs trembled. Trust in each other, but an unsettling thought crept in, mingling with the energy they produced. What if they weren't strong enough to overcome not only the Aswang but also the doubts within themselves? What fuels the darkness they fought against? As the shadows loomed larger, heavy with intent, the space around them shook violently. What emerged from the shadows was something unexpected, a form, a figure, unlike any they had seen. Their eyes locked onto the emerging entity as realization dawned. The true horror of their family legacy was more profound than they'd ever imagined. And with that haunting form looming closer, Jamie couldn't help but wonder what else lay hidden in the depths of their ancestry. What unspeakable horrors and powers awaited their discovery. Jamie stood at the edge of the abyss, adrenaline pumping through her veins. She could feel her friend's hands gripping hers, a lifeline in this chaotic moment. The Aswang shrieked and writhed, its twisted shadow threatening to engulf them all. Beneath the darkness, the promises echoed, power in exchange for sacrifice. Jamie's heart raced. What were they willing to sacrifice? Together, she shouted, forcing the fear out of her voice. We're stronger united. The energy from the gem pulsed brightly as they channeled every memory, every story of their ancestors' battles. Each tale of resilience bathed them in light, igniting their resolve. Without warning, the Aswang lunged at them, its grotesque features contorting in rage. The ground shifted again, ripping apart before them, an ominous chasm beckoning them into its maw. Hold tight, Priya cried, her eyes fiercely locked on Jamie and Eddie. Jamie could see the determination etched on her friends' faces, but doubt loomed. Would they win, or would this be their end? With a deep breath, Jamie focused on the gem. It blazed with light, a beacon in their darkest hour. This is more than just a stone, she yelled over the cacophony. It's our history, our strength. We can't let it consume us. As they held the gem together, radiating light, the Aswang halted, its fiendish eyes narrowing in confusion. Shadows coiled around it, seeking to absorb that very same light. I won't give in, Eddie yelled. We're the guardians now. We carry their strength in us. Then, Emily squeezed Jamie's hand tighter, and with every ounce of courage, they channeled their fear, love, and resolve into the gem. Release, they chanted in unison, igniting the memories of sacrifice, the laughter shared, and the love that had conquered all struggles. The shadows hissed, shrinking back as the brilliant light surged forth, expanding like a bursting dam. The last Aswang stumbled, its monstrous visage twisting in agony under the force of their unity. Together, let us unleash our legacy, Jamie cried, voice unwavering. They poured everything they had, memories, hope, love, into that gem. And as its light pierced the darkness, the figures of their ancestors emerged from the shadows, joining the fight. Specters of strength, wrath, and resilience united beside them, pushing back against the evil that had haunted their lineage. Now, Jamie commanded, the gem in her hand pulsing like a heartbeat of defiance. We end this cycle. In a brilliant flash, the combined might of their spirits blasted forth, engulfing the Aswang in a cascade of light. Its horrifying shriek echoed through the alley, piercing the layers of darkness, breaking the very ground beneath them. With one final howling wail, the Aswang dissolved, consumed by the brilliance of their heritage. The shadows trembled and withdrew, collapsing back into nothingness. The light wrapped around Jamie and her friends, cocooning them in warmth, offering the comfort of victory as the darkness receded. They stood there, breathless, basking in the aftermath, alive, together, bonded by experiences that transcended fear. The gem, once a harbinger of dread, now radiated tranquility. Did we really do it? Sarah murmured, wide-eyed with disbelief. Jamie nodded, tears welling. We did. Together. Silence wrapped around them, and from the ground, a sliver of hope emerged. Each of them embraced the weight of their ancestors' legacy, the stories long buried now unearthed. With the festival beginning to pulse with life again nearby, they stepped into the light together, memories of laughter, heartache, and battles intertwining with their own. Maplewood was safe, if only for now. Overhead, the autumn leaves danced in the breeze, and their breath hitched, knowing this wasn't an end but a beginning. There would always be darkness, but they had each other, and that truth was the strongest magic of all. As they walked away, They turned back for one last look at the alley where shadows had clung, now peaceful. "Hey," Eddie broke the silence. "Can you guys promise me something?" They paused, eyes wide. "Let us never forget what we've just done. Let us keep our stories alive so they never fade." "Yes, yes," Priya agreed, emotions bubbling inside her as they linked arms. And as they moved forward, ready to celebrate their victory, Jamie hugged the gem close, no longer feeling its weight. Instead, it felt light, a reminder of the fire within them. Now it was time to live, to share, to cherish their history. And in this struggle against darkness, they had found their greatest power. Amid the celebration away from the shadows, Jamie added, "Oh, and you guys, we need to share this story. People need to know about the Aswang, about our fight. We can't let it fade into silence." And with that, they stepped fully into the warmth of the festival, hearts racing, filled with hope, ready to make their voices heard. It was over, but only just beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. And for heaven's sake, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to get involved. True fans know how important it is to keep this going.